EC2 instances or a server. So what is this elastic cloud compute? That is a web service that provides secure resizable compute capacity in the world. So when we say the compute capacity is nothing but your storage, your memory, right? Your the volumes and whatever you want to your backups, everything whatever you need in a server to be there, you need, at least you have that. Okay, and when we save the compute capacity in the networking also, that will see how we can create our default network or private network. What we'll see that one while creating and accessing the firewall access. There are a lot more to know on this ec2. Okay, so there are few options they provide actually. AWS EC2 options, those options are on demand. On demand options, that is called, allows you to pay fixed rate by the hour or by the second with no commitment. That means whenever you need any server, suppose there is a demand comes, like you have actually an organization and you have some 10 members of resources working, employees working, and you have two servers, and suddenly you got a new client which is required more resources to join, and you need more servers to work on the and deliver the client requirement. So that uncertainty, right, whenever on demand comes, like suppose think about the Amazon e-commerce side, right? When because Amazon, it's a very big e-commerce platform. So if you think about a small e-commerce platform where they have only 3 or 4 compute resources are there, okay, EC2 instances, if they need immediately based on their demand increases, they want one more instances or servers to be attached to their platform, so they can go and go get it on demand basis price. They have to pay it, as we say, like cloud is pay as we go, right? Whenever you need it, just get it, use that one, pay for that, and go away, so you can get it. Another they provide as reserved options as that, which it provides you with a capacity reservation and offer a significant discount on the hourly and charge for an instance 1 year or 3 years terms. Like the name itself is reserved because we are going to reserve. And when you go for reserve as a solution architect, when you're going to do some design, right? So when you go for the reserve instances, if you have a client, suppose the client actually, you think like the client is it's going to exist for next 5 years, is not going to leave it, or your own organization or your own work also, you can go for, suppose you know that your work is going to exist there for next 3 years or 5 years. So unnecessary, you don't have to go for on demand EC2 instances. What you can go for, you can go for reserved one. So when you are going for reserved one, you have to pay less amount than on demand. Okay, so that's why anywhere, if you are going for any lease, if you are going to take it, because what is this, this is something kind of rent, right? We are renting network space, renting a server from AWS cloud. If you are lease, if you take a lease for more than 1 year, more than 3 years, obviously you have to pay less than giving a rent, right? So similarly, spot instances, what is, enables you to bid whatever the price you want for instance capacity. Okay, suppose spot instances, what happens, like our in the share market, right? We are bidding it for the spot prices. If there any equity has some price and you okay for that price to purchase that equity, right? What you have to equity or any share or any bond, whatever the spot price, you have to bid it and you'll get that one. Similarly, it also provides the spot instances whenever you want the spot instances to bid it, because on demand will not always be available. Suppose in one availability zone, it has actually some constraints. Okay, suppose in case of a spot you are going, what it says, it providing ever greater savings if if your application have a flexible start and end times. Suppose when you go for spot instances, suppose think about your suppose you have a small applications trading platform or any e-commerce site. Suppose you have in your company, and what are you doing? Suppose you don't know today evening or next, due to some kind of uses, it increases the resources, okay, and suddenly you got more customers and you don't have anything. So immediately you can go for the spot instances, you can bid for that price and immediately get one EC2 server and attach to your platform. That way you can do it. Also, they provide dedicated host. What is this dedicated host? This dedicated host are actually physically EC2 server dedicated for your use. Dedicated hosts can help you reduce by allowing you use your existing server bound software licenses. That means when you are going for, suppose you are renting a space, right? Either you can go for, so based on your requirement, with either if you have money and you are going to buy a bungalow, that bungalow is dedicated to you, you are not going to share your room space with anybody, right? Or if you are buying a 2 BHK house or just renting for a house, you are going to stay in that house, not any other people. Think about a hostel, right? A gents hostel, where you have to share your rooms with other partner, right? So suppose 3 bedroom will be there, so 3 people will be sharing your room. Similarly, for the dedicated host, you only will be using their network space and their servers, and no other persons will be allowed to that. That is entirely private. That is entirely private for you. So in case of public, what happens? So think about this as the example of a hostel, that network space, that server space, where you are allowing other people to stay and give you the rent. That means 3 people are using the same resources, same place, same server and different networks, right? That is called your public sector, right? It comes in the public server, the public one. So you're going to use the public cloud. Now the dedicated host is totally entirely for private uses. Okay, guys, you understood clearly what this means, and obviously because in the market there is a public cloud, private cloud, all these are there, right? So if you go for private, then you have to go for a dedicated host.
Yeah, Ranjit, one question.
Yes.
Yeah. So, is there any specific limit? Means like suppose if you take reserve, a spot or dedicated host, is there anything like you have to take specific this much? Then you can add on the add on more if you need. So, is there anything like you can means like you have to take it this much fast? There'll be something like that, or
Yes,
you
yes,
can take.
exactly.
Uh,
So what I say, the first line itself, which says web service that provides secure resizable compute capacity. That means we can resize as per our need. Suppose we need 44
okay.
now, and suppose tomorrow I need some customer increases and I need more compute power. So I can increase it. If suppose I lost one client, I don't need these resources. What I can do, I can reduce it also. You can increase it, you can decrease it. So the amount, the time you spent, you have to pay for that. You can do it.
Got it.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you give some example on this, like who takes the reserve, who takes the spot, and who what kind of user take the dedicated host?
Okay.
I think the military and all they take dedicated host. I think, right?
The banking sector, all the banking sector, all the
Banking. Okay.
military, the government agencies, they go for dedicated host. Even
Got.
even remote, suppose if you are going to if you have an application, and that application, suppose you were having some sensitive informations and you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
expose to the world or expose to the everyone, and you feel like there is a chances of hacking or security breach. If you are more concerned about the security, more concerns about the security, then you'll go for and choose for dedicated host, right? Suppose
Got it. Yeah.
similarly, right? Like we are staying in a hostel and staying in a own room. So obviously our own room will be more secure than the hostel, right? Where the public uses.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so guys, next move on to the other things on details which we are going to learn. That is on demand. Whatever we discussed and everything, I have written it here. So some examples I've given it here also. The on demand is perfect for users that want to low cost and flexibility of Amazon EC2 without any front-end payment or long-term commitment, right? Applications with certain like spiky or unpredictable workloads that cannot be interrupted. Like as I discussed, unpredictable, like you're not sure about your load and suddenly you got some hike and spike and you can immediately go for the on-demand and use it. So applications being developed or tested on Amazon EC2 for the first time. Suppose you, like as I told, if you got a new client and you have to entirely get two more resources for your development team or for testing team, and suppose that your deadline comes and you have to immediately get one more resource and do the testings and deliver the product to the client. You can go for on demand and get it and do the work, leave the server and make happy your customer or the application or the client. Okay, so you can go for the on demand. So reserved, as I told, applications with steady state or predictable uses, applications that require reserved capacity. Users can make upfront payments to reduce their total computing cost even further. So obviously, if you go for reserve, you can lose it. So okay, guys, all this I have already told you. So spot instances, applications that have flexible start and end times. Also, users with an urgent need for large amount of additional computing capacity, they can go for it. And dedicated can be purchased reservation up to 70%. Useful for regulatory requirements that may not support multi-tenant virtualization. So multi-tenant, like I told you about the multi-tenant means like your public cloud is a multi-tenant means multiple tenants will be there. Like you are going and get a public cloud, you have to pay for the rent and you get it. Suppose tomorrow I am going to get it for that, and another people is going to get it. So whatever whoever is going to buy that one, they'll give it a space where all people will go and buy the resources or rent the resources and pay for that one, but dedicated, no multi-tenant available, no multi-tenant virtualization available. Okay, so normally if you see, you guys would have worked on the virtualization, right? Mostly every company will work in the virtualization upon virtual server or virtualization. So how they give it, they AWS have one. Suppose let me tell you about my laptop. I want to, suppose tomorrow or today I want to make my laptop as a cloud service. So what I have to do it, I have suppose 1 TB of storage and 8 GB or 16 GB of RAM in my laptop. Okay, memory, 1 TB storage, 16 GB memory. What I can do, suppose I'll make virtualize, I create 4 virtual machines on my laptop. I'll create virtualization. I'll create 4 VMs on my laptop. I can give one VM to you, another VM to another person, and 4 members I can share my VMs. So what happens in my one laptop, 4 VMs, and those 4 VMs will be allocated to 4 members. So that means the 4 members will be using the same hardware, same space, but in a different chamber. Okay, like think about a flat or or any kind of hostel or whatever. What do you think? You are sharing your space with others. That is your, right? Or multi-tenant virtualizations. In the network ways, we have to create virtualization and share the, what is, that is what the AWS cloud is actually doing. Not only AWS cloud, everyone who the cloud service provider they are doing. Okay, they provide the services. So let's discuss about more the EC2 instance types. Guys, just remember whatever we are discussing, actually this will be useful whenever you are taking a decision what kind of server you are going to use for your project and even for your personal use. Okay, if you understood clearly, then you can do whatever things you want. Either you be a solution architect or an administrator or whatever, you can go and choose for that. So like the EC2 instance type, Amazon EC2 provides wide selection of instance types optimized to different use cases. Guys, can you go mute? Okay. So Amazon EC2 provides a wide selection of instance types optimized to fit different use cases. So instance types compromise varying combinations of CPU, memory, storage, and networking capacity and give a flexibility to choose appropriate mix of resources for your applications. So guys, let me give you a real-time example. So whenever you're going to create a computing platform, suppose a laptop or a desktop, you're going to a market or going to a electronic shop or computer shop or laptop shop where you're going to purchase it. So when you go to get a laptop, what things you have to first think about? You have to think about the computing power, like the resources, what is the brand of the laptop, what is the monitor size, right? What is the memory, what is the storage, what is the processor, the uh, OS versions, everything you are going to check it, right? The operating systems, everything we have to go and do, and whatever you feel like it is suitable for you, then you can get it. Then you can buy for that one and then come up. Similarly, the same way, whatever I just explained you, the same way we are going to choose the resource type, instance type, and gateway server. So I have given a link here. So instance type, if you see here, let me just explain more about that. So EC2 instance types, hold up a minute. Okay. See guys here, just remember, let me explain you all these instance types. So they have actually very wide range of EC2 instance types they have. Okay. So you can choose, as I told, you can choose based on your performance, based on your requirement, based on your client requirement, or based on your project demand, project requirement. So they have different types of instances. Like for Mac they are giving, so remember guys, AWS is the only cloud provider I believe who supports or who provides Mac server, Mac iOS operating systems. Okay, so it only provides for Mac instances. If you want a Mac server to be created for your project, you can choose this one. And they are providing only one instance type, that is Mac one. As I told, when you're going to purchase a laptop, you're thinking about the CPUs, dual core, or whatever processors, or your memory and storage. Similarly, here you can see the instance type for Mac. They provide 12 core, 12 CPUs, 32 memory, okay, RAM 32, and instant storage EBS only. Based on the storage, you can choose it, and EBS bandwidth, the network bandwidth, everything you can choose. So how you'll do it? How you choose a server based on your requirement, based on your budget, you have to just come to the marketplace, come to the AWS marketplace, and you have to extensively use this link instance types to choose. Suppose you are going to go for T3 or T2, right? For T3, what is this? T3 instances are the next generation bustable general purpose instance type that provide a baseline level of CPU performance with ability to burst CPU usage at any time for a long as required. Okay, so for each instance type, they have given all these definitions, what is being used for and what are the features they are giving. For T3, they are giving bustable CPU governed by CPU credits and all. So unlimited mode by default and powered by AWS Nitro systems and all. See, these many instance types they are providing. So Suppose your project requirement is, suppose four CPUs, four CPU required. So what you have to do? You have to go for T3 extra large. Okay, and you need, suppose you don't need more computing power, more CPUs. You can go for, but you need, suppose 4 GB RAM or 8 GB of memory, right? 8 GB of RAM or 4 GB of RAM. What you can go, you can choose for 8 GB. Suppose you have to go for T3 large, and T3 large provides two CPU, and CPU credits 36 credit hours, but 8 GB memory. Okay. Similarly, you can go for any further requirements. So you can go for next generation of M4, A1. So if you go for, suppose,
What is credits per hour?
what? Sorry.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Uh, there was something mentioned CPU credits per hour.
Yeah.
Yeah,
CPU.
CPU credits per hour.
Okay, so CPU credits, what is the CPU credits, right? So whenever you just use the CPU credits, so whenever you need, actually they can provide you the extra CPU credits if you want per hour. So they can provide you up to 6 years. For T3 Nano, they can provide you 6. Similarly, they can increase it up to 192 CPU credits per hour they can give you. Okay, so like everything, guys, remember they charge hourly basis. Everything they charge hourly basis. So that's why the CPU credits, whatever you want, they'll give you for 6 CPU credits per hourly for T3 Nano. If you need more CPU credits, you can go with.
That means per hour. Yeah, if you use like let's say T3 Nano, so
Mhm.
per hour they will charge six credit point or something.
Yes, they'll charge for 6. They're not charged for, actually what they provide for T3 dot nano. Normally the CPUs, virtual CPUs available too, but the CPU credits, whatever the CPU is governed by CPU credits, means wherever the CPU credits you want. Suppose for 6 CPUs, if you want to increase the CPU credits powers, so you can go for 6, or T3 Nano by default they provide 6. By default they provide 6. You can go for 6, and per hourly they provide CPU credits 6 up to, uh, not up to, they give exactly 6. Okay, there is no limit, increase or decrease. You can use. Suppose you want tomorrow more CPU credits, so what you can go for, you can go for immediately change the instance type to T3 micro. You have to purchase another server which will have T3 micro, and you need more CPU credits. Okay, so based on your requirement only you have to choose it. Okay, so Siva, right? Sivram, did you
So
get
let's say suppose
yeah, please tell me.
yeah, just one question. Let's say suppose I have T3 Nano and if there is something two virtual CPUs or three CPUs are there. So let's say suppose it will maximum handle 100 concurrent users. And at a time, let's say suppose 200 users or more than that, like logged in. So what will happen? It will like crash, or it will not allow, or it will throw error. Or, I mean, just I'm trying to imagine what will happen.
No, like see, the CPU resources, right? The CPU credits and CPU utilization went up. Suppose it does not about mean about the customers and all, because the CPUs, the computing power is based on your load on the server. Load on the server, that what type of applications you are using and what type of load you are giving. Suppose you two dual core CPU if you are going for, and it gives the 6 credits. Okay, the utilization up to 6 means you can use the up to 6 per hour. Suppose you think about what you said, like suppose your customer increases. Okay, let's see, customer increases and you put maximum load on your server. Suppose you have two dual core CPU and it does not have that much capacity to handle more loads, and it is exhausted. Okay, it is exhausted. Obviously you will get a slowness on your server. For that, what we have to do, you have to immediately go for on demand or spot and buy another server, and because that is not can be done automatically, right? You have to do manually, go and get one server, or you can write any other tools or softwares to automatically provision one server and do the deployments, like the applications you have to move into the different server and you can try to access it. Or else, if you are already a good organization, big organization, you can still go for standby applications or standby service where you can immediately switch over your servers to for further use, right? You have to change it. If your CPU utilization exhausted, it increased based on your load performance, you have to switch over it. Also, we'll discuss all this in our load balancing, how the load balancing works. We can do it in that section. We'll discuss more about these loads and CPU utilization.
So when you increase the CPU credit per hour, so your performance will improve, or what will change in that?
The performance will increase. The performance,
Okay.
the performance will increase. So for suppose you are increasing for suppose 12, so you'll go for T3 micro and your performance will
Mhm.
obviously get increased for that, because what they gives, uh, based on the
Okay.
sizes, this is your exactly about the performance. So if you go for here T3 nano, T3 nano, what they provide 0.5 only memory. RAM is 0.5, right? That means 512
Mhm.
MB. So similarly, the
Okay.
performance of this based on the CPU cores 2 and the CPU 36 are. Obviously, the performance will increase if you change the CPU credits. This is totally the utilization.
Got it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So next, what we'll do, let's discuss about the, if you want, suppose tomorrow, more size computing power. So you can even go for further this instance type M6G. If you want to go for what it gives, Amazon EC2 instances are powered by ARM based AWS Gravitation 2 processor. So if you want to for this more processor power, then you have to go for this, and they deliver up to 40% better price and performance over current generated M5 instances. So we have M5, M5A, M5N, all these instance type. We have T categories, T3, T2, T4, all this. So what it gives, they have also, see, 64 CPUs they provide, and memory actually they gives 256, 256 memories. And if you want further more to that, also you can choose for this the instant storage type, and this instant storage type EBS only. That is actually the storage based on your requirement. You can increase and decrease. But while choosing this instance type, that should be always the same amount, whatever they have displayed, you will get it. But this storage only, it's up to you. How much you need, you can add it. But these things will be fixed. This 16 GB and 64 will be fixed. Yes.
What is the difference between EBS and SSD?
Which one? EBS. Sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
get.
EBS and SSD. Below it's written there.
Yeah, sure. See,
The difference between EBS and SSD.
actually, okay. So whenever you go for a laptop, right, we'll have either you can go for the hard disk type, right, storage type, HSD or SSD. We are going for hard disk drive or SSD actually solid state drive. It is called solid state drive. So whatever drive we are getting, right? So that is solid state drive. So EBS is actually say elastic block store. So we have a different topic to cover this EBS. Okay, we have different class for EBS alone. Uh, how to choose the EBS type. So when you go for the EBS type, you'll have different options to choose. Either to choose HSD, SSD, cold storage, and a lot more storage details are there. So we'll discuss all this in our storage class. Okay, got it?
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, Ranjit.
Ranjit, can we increase the number of CPU on demand?
Yes.
Because if you see in VMware cluster, when
Mhm.
server is there, we are increasing on the demand. Sometimes when load is high,
Yes.
on demand we are increasing the number of CPU without shutting down the application. Same I think is possible. The number of B CPU what we have. Suppose we have a unprecedented load on the server means and it make the system slow. At the same time, can we increase the number of CPU by migrating to any other instance like this without moving application, but we can port our application to more CPU? It is possible.
Yes. Actually, how you have to do, we cannot modify the instance they provide. Suppose if you are using already suppose M6G large, or let me go to T2. Suppose you are using T2 small having or T2 extra large having four CPUs, and suppose you need two more extra, you can stay with T2 extra large. You have to go and get another server with T2 two extra large. But the thing is, the server whatever we're talking, see, whenever you go for a server, the server and connect to a network, it will have a different IP addresses, right? What you have to
Yes.
do, you have to go for elastic IP, which is the static IP, not dynamic IP. Static IP, the static IP will be your customer facing the DNS name or the domain name. But in the backend,
Yes.
whenever you are changing the server, right, that will be done in the backend, and your engineers and your production support guys or product deployer have to deploy your application in another server. Otherwise, it will not work. You have to do it because that is not the automatic thing. Because
Okay.
uh, for your laptop, if you are going to increase your RAM, I'm telling you about the physical, because this cloud is nothing but a physical server, right? Situated in virtually somewhere else in the data center. They have a specific physical machine where they have some slots, right? They also have RAM, they also have memories and everything. You cannot immediately increase or decrease because they are the hardware slots they have to remove and right, add or remove it. Similarly, you cannot choose and increase the CPUs for if you are using T2 micro, you cannot use to increase the T2 micro for 2. You have to go for another server and you have to use it.
So
Okay.
there will be a downtime.
Obviously, so you have to handle it accordingly because you don't have to give a downtime also. See, if you are using
Okay. Okay.
if you're using see if you're using a server, if you're using a server, that server is already your application is hosted, and you are going to host going to increase and your no the compute power of a server, and you're going to get another instance types which has more compute power. Obviously, what you need before shutting down your server, we always choose to do in the weekend times. So when you will get the downtime, obviously we cannot go for weekdays deployment, obviously. The downtime, okay, Siva, for you guys, actually I'm extending it. Yes, we'll get downtime. Without downtime, you cannot do it. We need at least sometimes to migrate your server. That is your server migrations. So we have a server migration. We have to migrate our server from one to another.
Got it. Got it.
Okay, this is
Maybe without downtime, we can add a extra server and through DNS we put it. Means that is
exact.
possible. That will be complex, but I believe.
That be possible,
Yeah,
because
got it.
that's why I was talking about your static IP. If you have a static IP and you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
already get it and route the try IP, and but still you'll get some downtime. But most of the companies they
Yes.
don't do it. They always
Yes,
deploy
yes. Got it. Got it.
applications. Yes. Okay. So similarly for T2 also, guys, as I told, you have to always go to the AWS Marketplace based on your project or client requirement. You have to go and choose all these instance types. Okay, T3A or A1 if you are going for this, So you can choose for this one metals and all. So I'm not going to give I'm not going to read all these documents and to provide, because if you are a cloud solution architect or a cloud practitioner, what you have to always depend on their documentation, because every time they keep changing the services, they keep adding new services, they keep adding new things into their documentation, into their platform. So you have to always follow this documentation to get updated into the market. If you don't follow this, then you will obviously not get up to date into the market. I'll tell you all these scenarios when we move forward and we have load balancer and all these auto scaling things we'll discuss about. That time I'll show you what are the things they have recently added, and there are lots of things. There will be lots of channels where you get updated from the every week. They are actually updating something every week. Okay, they are updating something. Okay, so let's don't waste time on this. Let's move on. Guys, hope everything clear about this instance type and how you'll choose the instance types, right? CPUs, memory, storage, network capacity, based on your requirement, you have to choose it. So what it says, each instance type includes one or more instance sizes, allowing you to scale your resources to the requirements of your target workload. So we'll see all this, how the scales works in the auto scaling part. Okay. So next one, sir. Okay. So Sibaram was asking about the EBS things, right? We have actually what is EBS and all. So we'll discuss about more details, but not now. Let's move on, because that's EBS. Whenever we choose, right, that will, while creating the server itself, I'll tell you what is this, and that time we'll discuss. Okay. So guys, theoretical, let's finish it here for EC2, and you know what are the EC2 type and the server and why you go for EC2 instances. So let's log into your server. So I hope everyone has created an account, right, with AWS. So if you have not created, just go and create it, and side by side actually do practices. Otherwise, you'll forget. Guarantee you will forget if you don't do practice. Okay. So all the time, because we have one week, right? Because weekend classes we are doing, so we have entirely 1 week with our hand. So whenever you guys get time, 1 hour or half an hour or 2 hours, just log in and do some practices. Okay. Okay. Shit. Go. H5. What about? Guys, my voice is clear to you. I feel some slowness why it's taking some time. I'm just worried.
Yes, yes, Ranjit.
Clear, right? Okay.
Little bit disconnecting sometimes. It's okay.
So it's maybe next class onwards, I'm just getting one new broadband connection. Maybe that should be fine. It will go smooth. Okay. Okay, so as I told, like when you log into your AWS Management Console, you will see like in the top side, you will see your services, or here you can find all services, right? So if you click this all services, in the first itself, you can find the compute section, right? In the compute section, Dilip or somebody, can you please mute? Getting some noises. Okay, so what you can do here, suppose, okay, so EC2 instances, if you go here, EC2 instances, just click on this EC2 instance, EC2 only. The compute sections, you'll find a lot more other computing also. Let me just explain about this compute and then we'll move into the EC2. So if you go to the all services, you'll find here EC2 Light Cell, Lambda, Batch, Elastic Beanstalk, Serverless Application Repository, AWS Outpost, EC2 Image Builder, AWS App Runner. Let me just discuss about some requirements, how you'll choose the services. As I told, there are more than 500 services being provided by the AWS. Okay, how you'll choose the services as based on your requirement. Suppose you need to go for a server, you need a compute power, computing sections. What do you have to do? So you have to come here and check for, suppose you need a server to create, and you know what are the service they provide to get the server created. You can go for EC2 Elastic Compute Cloud to create the server. Similarly, we have some Light Sail, Lambda. These are the other services which provides a different requirements. So Lambda is a serverless, for like we discussed about, like the function as a service. If you remember in our cloud sections, right, we had discussed about the function as a service. So Lambda being used as comes under function as a service to being create, give the APIs or the functions can be used well. Similarly, they provide the batch computing, elastic beanstalk, all are different services. So we cannot discuss everything, all details, and we'll just focus on the EC2 instances, and I'll just little bit tell about this elastic beanstalk in our next upcoming classes. Okay, so we are discussing now on the EC2. Just go on this EC2 and you'll find the EC2 dashboard. Okay, in the EC2 dashboard, as we discussed about this instance types and all, right, everything again we can see in our EC2 dashboards also. So to let me just explain about this EC2 dashboard. If you see it here, this EC2 dashboard, in the left hand side panel you will see the instance types, right? What are the instance types? We are seeing it here. If you want to check it instance types, you can click it here. So one more thing, actually here we did not see about any pricing, guys. You have to be always think about the pricing, right? See, let me just check here the pricing. Also, I didn't tell you one thing. So in this page they have, you can see here the compute optimized, memory optimized, accelerated computing, storage optimized, storage optimized, instance feature. Based on this you have to just click and go for that. So compute optimized, memory optimized, you have to go for this R types, right? And for accelerated computing, so you have to choose like this. So you have to use this space accordingly. But let me tell you about this more on this instance types. If you see here this dashboard, you can see instances. I don't have anything running. Elastic IPs, key pairs, placement group, snapshots, dedicated host. I don't have any dedicated host instances. I have 3 instances currently, but none of them are running. Load balancer, security groups, all this you can find it here. So let me just go to the instance types. Just before moving and creating a server, we'll discuss about the instance types. Okay, see here we can find it out the entire details about the instances. So if you see it here, the instance type, everything you will find in one page. Everything you'll find it in one page. Also, you see it here, the architecture they provide, like the Core i3 processor, 86 and 64 processor, and everything you can find it here. The memory and storage, as I told, it is based on the creation server create. During the server creation, you have to choose the storage. It does not come under this instance types. And you can see the pricing details here. In this page you can see the pricing details here. So for T2, nano, T2 micro, and whatever based on your requirement, if you're going for 16 GB memory and 4 CPUs, so you have to go and choose for this. See, for on-demand Linux pricing per hour, they are providing 0.1984 USD per hour. Okay, for the Linux machine. For a Windows machine, they almost double this 0.2394, okay, per hour. So as I told, we have actually 12 months of free usage, right? Free accounts for 12 months. So EC2 also we can use for 12 months free, but there is a limitations like they give up to, guys, just remember, don't create more servers and leave it and then you will get charged for that. So thing is they provide 30 GB of storage in a server entirely free for 12 months, 30 GB, and they only provide T2 micro T2 micro instance type as a free tier. I'll discuss about more, or I'll just wait for some time. So, and you can see it here, the pricing. Based on that pricing, you just calculate it, and based on your requirement you have to choose it. So let's go and uh, create a small server and we'll see how it works. And before that, let me just discuss about this instance type. We can see the spot request template. We have a separate class for templates also. Uh, See, this EC2 sections we'll have 4 to 5 classes, because each and everything actually we have to discuss in details. Launch templates, okay. And if you go for image creations also, I'll tell you, I'll just give you how you can create the image volumes. We have a section for volume snapshot, how we can take the snapshots, because most of the guys will be working on the snapshot backups and all this. I'll show you how we can take our own custom snapshots. Security groups like the firewalls, security, right, elastic IPs, load balancer, auto scaling, all these is required separate classes I have to take for you. Okay, these require similar lab classes, minimum 1 hour of time for each sections. So let's don't waste time, let's move on. If I go to the EC2 dashboard, okay, you can find it here, one option called launch instance, right? Just click on this launch instance, okay, and see the first things it gives to choose an AMI. What is AMI? AMI is Amazon Machine Image. So what is the image, right? So nowadays everyone provide the .iso file or image file to do. So before, if you go 5 to 10 years before, right? 10 years before, or 5 6 years before, 10 years before, all the operating systems was coming in a compact disk, CD or DVD, and we have to put it into our laptop and the ROM and or any other desktop, and we have to install it, right? But now this operating systems as coming as a bundle, okay, as a package, as an image. So that image file is nothing but a
Hello?
package. Yeah, hello, hello. Yeah, can I,
Yeah, Ranjit, it was mute for a few seconds since I for everybody.
No,
uh,
actually,
okay.
it's not audible properly. It's there is a lot of disturbance. No, might be there is some.
Okay, let me just switch my network. Just give me a second.
Screen sharing
Then
is
I
being
think the
slow
screen
actually.
also.
No, no, let me change. Let me change my network. 1 second. Let me change my network. Guys, while changing my network, there will be updates. Okay, just bear in that. 1 second. Hope this will work fine. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
getting the screen, and while you are talking, then the bandwidth going down. Due to that is a little bit not sync with your whatever you are showing and whatever you are talking.
Okay, okay. Just give me one day actually. Yes, so tomorrow actually this guy actually just getting broadband connections to my home. Maybe tomorrow classes will be. Let's see
Okay,
how
okay.
this is going. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So let me. I think this should be fine now. This my voice is clear to you now.
Yeah, yeah, it's clear now. Only while you something doing with the screens and while you talking both together, then it's problem.
Okay, got it. Got it. Okay.
It's required more bandwidth to share the screen is now.
Yeah, yeah. Because I'm using my home. This actually came to my hometown right here. I'm just using this Wi-Fi dongle. So I'm just having this Geo and Airtel having lots of problem here. So anyway, I have asked the BSNL broadband to actually they are going to set up today. They're going to set up maybe tomorrow class we'll have with the broadband connection. Okay, so
Okay.
let's see here. As I was discussing here, like the first section while creating a server, like as I told, the image is an is a bundle, right? Is a bundle or is a package which is having all the informations, all the binaries, all the operating systems binaries, applications bundled together and created a package or image, and we are going to create that image, that ISO file. So we are not going to use more that USB drive or CD to install any operating systems. So this AMI, what is this? An AMI is a template that contains the software configuration. So what is the software configuration? The software configuration is your operating system, your application server applications required to launch your instance. You can select an AMI provided by AWS or user community or AWS Marketplace. Okay. Suppose here is the AMI sections. Okay. In the AMI image section, suppose you need one Ubuntu machine, Ubuntu server. So what you can go here in this section, you can just click Ubuntu, search for this Ubuntu, okay, and you'll find all the Ubuntu operating systems. See how you'll just find it out. If you go for this Ubuntu server, right? This Ubuntu server having 20.04 LTS versions, ABS general purpose volume type, and 64-bit AMI processor. All these you can 64-bit and 86 processors, ARM. See, you can see ARM. So all these details you can find it here, and also here it comes the free tier eligible. That means if you are under free tier and doing practice for your own personal learning and R&D, you can choose this free tier to use it. If you are going to buy anything or provision anything for your companies, then you have to go down and choose. These are actually you have to pay, and based on the see as the image meanings told you, I told you the operating systems or the applications, everything installed already, and they package it and they'll give you as a as an image. So if you go and suppose for your client you have a requirement, suppose for machine learning or artificial intelligence application, you are going to build it on a Linux server. So if you are going in the marketplace on the image sections, you'll find it. See here, this for deep learning machines, if you have already the applications installed before you choose it. So TensorFlow, PyTorch, Neuron, NVIDIA, CUDA, all these applications, SageMaker, everything actually installed here. If you want to for any SQL server, any database, you want to make it, already database is installed in this image. Database of this operating system already available. You don't have to install it separately once you choose this image to create a server. Also, it has .NET Core 5.0, PowerShell 7.1. It's already there in this Linux machine. You don't have to install separately. So you have to choose the image accordingly. So here you can see here in the AWS Marketplace, we have 805 and community AMIs. So what is this community AMI? In the community AMI, you'll see like the in the community, like the distributor, the people, whoever actually creating the images, like suppose I have my own. Anyway, I'll show all these communities while we go with and create our own image. That time I'll discuss more. For operating systems, you can choose this here, right? See, operating systems, Amazon Linux, CentOS, Debian, Fedora, Gentoo, whatever you want, just select in this Amazon market community and just select, suppose you want for SUSE Linux, just select it and you'll get the images details from the SUSE. So for SUSE, we have 805 results from AWS Market and 8 from Quick Start AMI. If I go for 8 results, you'll get these details for SUSE, right? Similarly, let's go for Windows Server or CentOS. If you go for CentOS operating system or Red Hat, you cannot find anything in the quick start. So where you have to go? You have to go to the AWS Marketplace. So go to the AWS Marketplace and you will find the CentOS. Okay, for CentOS, we have free tier eligible as well. So we can use this to create server under free tier. Okay, we have all these CentOS machines. If you want to go for Windows, just search for Windows and you will find
So,
all the Windows machines or Windows AMIs. Okay, now let
so what are the services we are choosing? It will be, it will be chargeable for, means it will be start for chargeable for the extra every 1 hour, correct? Means no, like that.
everyone, yes. See, they charging hourly basis. They charge hourly basis. But we actually, as I told, they provides free tier. If you are going to go use this free tier, then they will not charge you. They'll not charge you until 12 months. You can use 12 months, 30 GB of storage. I'll just explain you more further while we are in the lab classes. Okay, so let me just select these. Suppose Amazon Linux, I'm going to, suppose for this practice I'm going to use Amazon Linux, this lab class. What it provides, Amazon Linux 2 comes with 5 years support. It provides Linux kernel 4.14 tuned for optimal performance. Also, it provides like all these details, which is the latest software packages through extras. The AMIs is the successor, all this. So let's select this AMI. I want to, and make sure you are under free tier eligible. Otherwise, don't tell me that I did not tell you, and you'll pay for that. If you don't choose for free tier, if you choose something else, then you have to pay for that. Okay, just go for free tier, select it, and next comes the instance type. Here you have to choose what type of instance you want. As I told you, T2 micro is only comes under free tier. Okay, T2 micro only comes under free tier. The rest actually you have to pay for that. If you don't go free tier, then you have to pay hourly basis if you choose any other instance types. Okay, so let me go with T2 micro. Next, instance details, configure instance. So in this page, the number of instances, how many instances you want to provision or you want to create, you have to get it here. Suppose I want for 1 instance. If you want for 10 instances to get created, you can go for 10. Okay, but I don't want to go for 10. I just let me go 1. And the purchasing options, you can select here request spot instance. If you are going for spot instance, you can go for here. Also guys, you can see here one exclamation mark here, right? If you click this exclamation, it will give you the more details about the options or the field. So what options? You have the option to request spot insertion and specify the maximum price you are willing to pay per instance hour. So here you have to do the bidding. I'm not going to do the bidding. Okay, so I'm just leaving it here. Then comes the network section. This is very important, and we have a separate 5 days class for this network to discuss. Okay, Now, this network sections, you can see it here. We have the default VPC. Okay, either we can create our own VPC that will have a different VPC section, VPC class for 3 days class, 3 to 4 days class that time we will create and discuss. But so far, let me choose as the default VPC. So VPC is nothing but your virtual private cloud. Is a network space to host your server, to keep your server. That we'll discuss more detail elaborately in different classes. So we have subnet. Okay, subnet as a, see guys, the the region, right, whatever I was just discussing about, if you see this top corner right hand side, we have the region sections. I told you already. In this region sections, it is selected as Asia Pacific Mumbai. That means I'm going to create a server on Asia Pacific Mumbai. The code is app south 1. If you want to create a server in Singapore or in Hong Kong or in California or in USA, so you have to choose the region accordingly. And how you will choose? Always remember, if we are going to get a server, you have to always choose the region nearest to you. The region nearest to you. So for us, the region would be definitely nearest is the Mumbai region. That's why I have selected Mumbai. This point you have to always remember. Okay. So how you have to choose the server based on your nearest region. If you are, but your requirement is, see, and you are going to get a server for USA customer, for USA customer. Can you tell me where you have to get your server created?
US region, right?
US region. So you have to choose which is the US region, either Northern Virginia, Ohio, Northern California, or Oregon. So you have to choose accordingly based on the customer's focus, right? If you're targeting the customer, because if your server you are keeping in Mumbai but your customers from USA, definitely there is lots of mess up will be happen, right? Slowness and lots of things. That's not ideal thing to do. Okay, suppose you are going to get customers from Singapore, so you have to go for Singapore servers to get a server hosted. Based on that, you have to choose your region. So I choose my region as Mumbai. So this is clear where to choose. Next, come to subnet. As a in our last section, last class we discussed, each region have more than three or more than three availability zones, right? So each region have two or three or more than three availability zones. If you see here, the subnets have three availability zones attached here, three subnets. So one subnet, remember these points, you may get in questions in interview as well as in your solution architect examinations. Whenever one subnet will be created for one availability zone, same subnet cannot be attached to the another availability zone. So if you can see here, subnet B33, here 350.468, three subnets attached to AP South 1A, South 1C, South 1B, 1A, 1C, 1B. If you see the region, it comes the code as AP South 1, the region code AP South 1. But if you go for availability zone, 1A, 1B, 1C, app south 1A, 1B, 1C. Three availability zones. So in three availability zones, we have three subnets. Okay. Now I selected as no preference. That means I don't want to select any specific one. So let the AWS decide for me and give one default subnet to me, because we are not going to be specific availability zone. So we learn all this when we create our own custom VPC. That time we'll learn. Okay. Now, auto assign public IP. So if you click select this auto assign public IP, it automatically assign a public IP so that we can able to connect. Okay. Similarly, we have this join directory, right? So Tanmay, you were talking about the directory, right? Active directory and all, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Tanmay. So we have also similarly in AWS, we have actually same as domain join directory. So we have similar features like Active Directory here in AWS. We'll see actually later all this how we can attach this directory and create it Active Directory also and attach it here or to the on-premises. We'll discuss further on this. Okay. So what is this join directory? You see. Domain join enables you to join your instance to a directory you have defined in AWS Directory Services, giving you a single sign-on. Like we are every time we are using in a company single sign-on, right? In one directory, one ID for all applications. Similarly, you can do for AWS as well. Okay. And about this IAM role, we are discussing the IAM role creations in the sections, right? We'll see in the different classes how to use the IAM roles in our instances and use it without using your what when to use this role, because when you're not going to use your credentials to log in your servers, you can give a resource or give an employee some kind of role so that they can easily come and connect to the server, right? So that roles, the role sections we'll discuss again, means we'll do it later in the class, not today. In our other lab sections, we'll see how the roles can be done. Similarly, we have this shutdown behavior. The shutdown behavior means while you shut down your server, what should be done? You can either select terminate and stop. By default, it comes stop. If you want to terminate it, you can terminate as well. Why? Because this shutdown behavior, if you select terminate and you shut down your system, it will terminate your server itself. Okay, be careful while selecting this. If you shut down it, it automatically stop it. And stop hibernate behavior. This is the hibernate behavior and enable termination protection. And this is very important to enable termination protections. Remember, there is a questions by default. Okay, the enable termination is off. Okay, by default, the termination protection is off. If you want to enable it on it, you can do that one. So what it says, protect against accidental termination. Suppose your administrator is doing some activity and he by mistake he clicked on the terminate button. What will happen? Your entire server will be deleted, terminated. If you have not taken any backup or anything, then it will be a disaster for you. Okay, for your company. To protect that, you can just select this one, protect against accidental terminations. Okay, so mostly if you're having any database kind of server creating, so you can just go and select for any server. If that is always better to click this one. So let me just select it. And monitoring, so the CloudWatch section we discuss about this monitoring and the tenancy. So we are discussing about the tenancy, right? So that is tenancy sections, like whether you are going to go for a dedicated host or you want to go for a public one, right? So that you have to decide here. The tenancy, the tenancy here is called shared, run a shared hardware instances, dedicated, run a dedicated instance, dedicated host, launch this instance on a dedicated host. So you have to use this one, either the tenancy type. Okay, so I am just going for public, so shared, run a shared hardware instance. If I want to go for a private cloud, I can select for dedicated host, but I don't want to go for that because I have to pay extra for the dedicated private cloud. I'm not going for private one. So now credit specifications, the credit specifications you can give unlimited, but I don't want to give you unlimited, otherwise it's unnecessary to keep me charged. The rest of the things, the advanced details, we have a separate class for this advanced class, advanced details to discuss. Okay, one day separate class for this entirely discussions. Okay, uh, guys, you understood clearly about all the configurations of instance details, right? Now let's go and move on to the storage section. We have a next section is the add storage. If you click on add storage here, so Siva Prakash was asking me the SSD and EBS type. So when you see the storage, we have to decide what type of storage you need. That storage they give as a block storage, EBS, elastic block storage. So what it says, your instance will be launched with the following storage device setting. So when you create the by default, it gives the volume type, actually root devices. This gives, they create a default snapshot. They have a default snapshot. Based on the snapshot, can anybody tell me where this snapshot came? We have not created any snapshot, right? Where this snapshot came? Any idea?
This is operating system snapshot, I think.
Exactly. This is the operating system. AMI we choose, right? The AMI, that's the snapshot created. The AMI created from this snapshot. Okay, so that snapshot. And here is 8 GB by default. As I told you, we can have 30 GB free. So if you're creating one server, 30 GB, that's okay. You can run for 12 months. But if you create another server with another 8 GB or 10 GB, so it will accumulate to 30 plus 10, 40 GB. So 30 GB is free, then you have to pay for 10 GB extra storage. Be careful while selecting the storages. Okay, and here the volume type. So we can see here SSD, general SSD, okay, general purpose SSD, GP3, GP2, general IOPS, magnetic standard and all SSDs and all. So this is, even they provide the root. We have options to add a new volumes. Suppose I'll go, as they are giving only EBS volume types, so we select EBS. Now, if you have any snap ID, we can select snapshots or else leave it default and give the EBS volume size. Suppose you need extra 100 GB, extra 300 or 500 GB. Suppose I need extra 200 GB. I just give 200 GB EBS. And here you can select this type of general purpose SSD and all. So now the time to discuss about the EBS. So let's go and see the EBS type. So guys, what is EBS? Amazon Elastic Block Store EBS allows you to create storage volumes and attach them to Amazon EC2 instances. Okay, once attached, you can create a file system. So we have created, seen the file system. We have worked with the file systems in our organization and company, right? We can create the file system on the EBS volumes. On top of these volumes, you can run a database or use them in any other way. You would use a block device. So the block device is a bootable device. Bootable device means you can do installations of operating systems. You can install any applications, any libraries, binaries, anything you can do. Okay, the bootable device or block device. So Amazon EBS volumes are placed in a specific availability zone where they are automatically replicated to protect you from the failure of a single component. So what it says, Amazon EBS volumes are placed in a specific availability zone. So we don't have to select this availability zone. That will be taken care by the AWS. Remember, we don't have to select anything. That will be taken care by AWS. That's why they gave guaranteed 100% or 99.9% availability. You should not be worried about that. Okay. Now, what it says, EBS volume types. If you see this, where is that? Yeah. If you see here, we have different volume types. GP2, GP3, IO1, IO2, throughput optimized, cold SSD, magnetic, these types. So these volume types are general purpose SSD like GP2. So general purpose balances both price and performance. The ratio of 3 IOPS per GB up to 10,000 IOPS. So what is this IOPS? That is input output per seconds. Read write, right? Input output per seconds, and ability to burst up to 30,000, sorry, 3,000 IOPS per extended periods of time. So these are the volumes GP2 SSD. Suppose if you want, based on your requirement, you have to choose what you need. And this provision, what it gives, this is for general purpose, for general uses, okay? And this provision is designed for input output intensive applications. What is this input output intensive applications? Your databases, because you have a millions of users and they are connected to your applications and querying something, fetching that. Think about our e-commerce site, Flipkart or Amazon. So how many customers are fetching their databases, either querying or something? They're going to check it, right? That time what happens? It always connects to a database, query some details. Suppose you are searching for a shoe or searching for a TV or any electronics devices. That what it will do, it will just go and connect your database, fetch all the details and show you, right? So that is actually input output intensive applications. So you have to go for provisioned IOPS. Okay, so provisioned IOPS such as for large relational or NoSQL databases. If you need, you can go for this provisioned IOPS. Okay, so next comes the throughput optimized HSD. The throughput optimized HSD. So if you have applications you're using big data, data warehousing, log processing, okay, so for that you can go for throughput HSD. This is hard disk drive. Okay, if you see here, these are SSD, solid state drive, and this is actually hard disk drive, which is SSD. Okay, so uh, you can see it here. These two types are bootables. However, this HSD cannot be a boot volumes. We can just show this big data warehousing, log processing. We can go if you have a requirement for a big data and you are going to choose this EVS volumes, creating attaching one EVS volume. What you have to do? You have to go and choose for throughput optimized, right? You can choose for throughput optimized and it will be attached here. So similarly for cold SSD, for cold SSD we have lowest cost storage for infrequently accessed workload. Can anybody tell me what is this infrequently accessed? Any guess? Because we are always actually day to day work, we are always working this infrequently accessed.
Lower access to server, I think.
So workload is less, like the more users, less users will be using, or the peak time more users will be using, there will be more workload.
It will be the backup disk where you keep your backup, means daily, weekly, because when your system will crash, somewhere you need to take a backup. Mostly it will be
Uh,
those
yes.
statics
So
where
whatever
your
Shiva,
system
Shiva
application
told,
backup should be there.
yes. So
Your file system backup. Because
yes,
every day you are going to run a backup of your file system. Most probably it will be stored here.
okay, exactly. So that is actually infrequently accessed, means you are not frequently access that server, that particular device, particular drive. You don't need. Suppose guys, think about in before you would have seen in our right in your our device in our desktop or laptop in the C we have suppose 1 TB of storage. We create multiple devices, multiple drive, right? C drive, D drive, E drive, F drive. Suppose you get all the archive details like your archived some logs or archived documents you put in suppose F drive, and you don't need it don't need it immediately, or they don't need all the time. Whenever required, you go to the F drive, search for the document and get it. That means you are not frequently accessing the F drive, you are infrequently accessing. Whenever is required, you will go and get it. That means why unnecessary you pay for the general purpose, right? So you have to choose for based on the requirement. Suppose you don't need that particular things for the, if you take a backup and put it there and you don't need now, whenever required, you go for. So let me tell you about a real-time example. Think about a banking sector, banking transactions. So what the banks they do, all the transactions, they the records, everything they store in a different archival database, archival storage area, where you go and search for your previous statements, bank statements. Suppose I went to the bank and asked for, can you please give me 1 year before statements? So what they'll do, they'll connect to that particular storage area, particular store where they kept the old records. They fetch it for that, and so whenever requirement comes, they go and fetch it. That is infrequently accessed. We are not accessing all the times. Okay. Similarly, file servers and it cannot be put volumes. And magnetic standard is lowest cost per gigabyte of all EBS volume types, that is bootable. Magnetic volumes are ideal for workloads where data is accessed infrequently again, and applications where lowest storage cost is important. So you have an applications created for your archiving some suppose data, but your applications should be installed somewhere, but you cannot if you go for cold HSD, you cannot install it because it is not a boot volume. You can only store it. And if you need your application to be hosted, some drive somewhere to be installed, so you can go for magnetic, which is infrequently accessed. You can keep all your archival informations, archival data, snapshots, or everything, you can put it there, and that applications will be, you would have seen, right? Whenever you are using some banking application or anything, they have a, they have some archival link, archival site. You have to go for that archival site and you can retrieve the data. Even in your company, in your organization, everyone will have definitely whoever have worked. Okay. So that at that time you can go for and choose for magnetic. So that's all guys about this EBS things and elastic block store. Remember, this is the bootable device elastic block store. That's called elastic block store. Okay, now this instance types we saw EBS, we discussed about EBS and EBS volume types. Let me go and choose one volume types. Suppose I will select for general purpose SST, and no, I don't go for EBS 200 unnecessary. I'll pay a huge amount of money for that, so I'm just deleting it. I'm happy with 8 GB. Okay, let's go for root volume 8 GB. So now let's go and add a tag. Give a name, suppose name, and give a value like I'm just going to get anything. I can just give a demo server. Okay, I'll just make it as a demo server. Okay, and all as it is a Linux server, I can demo Linux server. Okay. Meaningful. Okay, demo Linux server. Then
Ranjit, one question.
yes.
Why it is root? We can give any other name, or it is a Linux-based server AWS is running.
No, anything you create. See, let me discuss about. Suppose whenever you're going getting a laptop, your root device will be your C drive, right? C drive will be your root drive. If you delete C means everything will be gone, right? As we are choosing, let me go previous. Sorry. Okay. When we install, our operating systems will be installed a root device. Even if you go for Windows, there also will be root, but C drive will be there. I'll show you while creating the Windows instances. Okay, that will be there. If you want to add more D drive, E drive, or F drive, you can go and add volumes here. Multiple volumes you can add it.
Okay.
Okay, so operating system.
Usually in a Linux system always start with root. That's what I know.
Yes, so always starts with root. So volume type root means the root volume is not like you're starting with root. That is not the exact statement actually. Even though if you go
Yeah.
create Windows machine, that also starts from the root. The root will be here in C drive, right? That will be the C drive as the root. You need a root volume where you have to the base. That's the base you need to install your operating system. Now I'm just installing the operating
Yeah.
system, right? Yeah. Now go and
Yeah.
add.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Then demo Linux server. Then we have to go for firewall access. Guys, this is very important. And to understand this firewall access and everything, we have extensive different class for this entirely discuss about these firewalls and all. For the time being, let me just create this firewall. So what the security group, whatever we are talking about this firewall and all, but in AWS it is called as security group. Don't get confused. Okay, in AWS it is called as security group. The firewall concept, whatever we are learning in our company, right, working, we are giving firewall access to open a firewall access for this server, to open firewall access for this IP, for this port. But here we have to open security groups. We'll talk about the security groups. A security group is a set of firewall rules that control the traffic of your instance. So how secure you want to make your server, you have to do here. You have to give the accesses to particular IPs, to particular port, to particular persons, everything you can do it here. Okay. On this page, you can do add rules to allow specific traffic to reach your instances. You have to control your servers in this page itself. Okay. So first, let me just quickly go and create one. You can use the existing security group if you have already. So I have many security groups, and let me go and create one more security group for you. Suppose this is, let me go as demo Linux SG security demo Linux security group, and it should be a meaningful description you give. Suppose I have given only access to the SSH and HTTP. So here by default you can see we have SSH protocol is coming, right? If you, even though you can delete it, by default is coming SSH. As it is a Linux machine, as it is a Linux machine, by default SSH protocol is given, because we have to using this SSH protocol we can connect to the server. And this protocol types, if you select it here, we can see multiple other protocols also there. So which one you want to open the firewall, set the rules to provide access, you can select it here. So for this protocol, we can see here the port range is 22, because the default port of SSH is 22, and here the source is custom, and the protocol here, the IP addresses you have to select based on the which particular IP addresses where you want to provide access. And this 4 zeros means, guys, remember, you get a questions in the interview how to make this as a public, to allow access public. If you click on this anywhere, that means I am giving to the public to access my server. Anyone with the keys, user ID, password can connect to your server using this port number 22. If I want to restrict it, I can select my IP. That means only I can connect to this server. If you want to give any custom IP, you can select the IP 12.34. Anything. Okay. Suppose this IP, only the IP address, this IP address can able to connect to the server. But for our demo, let me give it, make it public anywhere, and I'm going to connect it. So now if you want into add it another rules, another firewall to open port for 80, what you can do, select the protocol, suppose HTTP, you can select it here, HTTP. By default it takes port number 80 because HTTP runs on port 80, and we can see custom or anywhere to the public. Okay, now if you don't want to select the IP here, and suppose you want to go for custom or custom protocol or custom something, what you can do, just select, sorry, custom TCP rules. What you can do, you can select the port number here, 80, because our motto is to allow access to the port. We are not dealing with this type because they are giving for you the making, and they're easy, they have made is our work while selecting this. Okay, so let me select suppose HTTP here, by default 80, and now next move on to the review and launch. So you have to just check it. So AMI we have used Linux 2, instance type T2 micro. T2 micro gives CPU 1, memory 1 GB, 1 CPU, and security groups we have SSH and HTTP like port 22, and instance details, storage details, everything you can find it here. Okay, now let's hit launch. Okay guys, this is again very important part. So creating your existing key pair. Okay, what we have to do here, either you can choose an existing key pair here, or you can create your own new key pair. Okay, I have already this many key pairs with me. Either I can use it or I can create a new key pair for this new server. So what I can go for this, suppose let me create one new key pair. Hit it, give a key pair name. Suppose I give us demo. Same thing I'll give to memorize, demo Linux server key. Anything based on your understanding you can give it. So I gave us demo Linux server key. What you have to do, you have to first download this, because this is the key is required to connect your server. If you lose it, you cannot connect to your server. Okay. You have to again recreate the key or regenerate it. Okay, so now let's download the key pair. I got the key pair here, so my key pair is stored here. Now let's, what you have to do, okay, now launch instance. Okay, launch instance. Got it. So now our instances is created. So our instance is now launching. So let me just view instance. If you click on the view instance, you'll see I have few already servers created and it is there already. So I have instance type, you can state, you can see it stopped. Okay, but I want this to be running. Okay, you can see here now this demo Linux server is now running. Okay, if you go to the dashboard and select the instances running, you'll find only one server is now running. If you want to know more details about this instance ID, just click it here. You can see here the instance ID, the public IP, this is the IP address of this server, this is the domain name of this server, and this is the private IP and private domain name. Okay, here the VPC subnet ID, all the security, everything, all that was instance details. More details about this and security, what are the security inbound rule, outbound rules, all setups. Okay, the networking, storage, status checks, monitoring, everything you can find it all these sections. For networking, if you see all the public IP details, all PVC and everything, the storage sections, what are the recent storage volume 1 we have the volumes. Okay, and the status checks, you can see the status of the system checks, it's still initializing, it is not it because fresh server we created, right? The status is still initializing. Also, if you can see to monitor it, you can just go ahead and see the system usage by seeing this monitoring page. Okay, this monitoring page is taking some time to load it because the first time we created it. Just leave that page. We'll discuss about this monitoring more on the CloudWatch sections. Okay, now our instance is running, right? Then how I'll connect to this server? I can create it by using this AWS management console, but how I need to connect this server? Just get this public IP, okay? And okay, I don't have a Windows machine to show you. I have my Mac machine. My Mac machine actually uses the Linux terminal, okay? So if I open my terminal, what I can do, I can just use SSH, okay, and I need the key to connect the server, right? What I need, I have to pass the key, type an I, so it is in my download folder, and the key name is demo. I think demo Linux server, right? Demo, okay, I have the demo Linux server key.ping. I just pass the certificate file here. Then I have to give a username. Remember, the Amazon Linux default username is EC2 user, okay, at the rate, and get the public IP. So just copy, okay. In the monitoring sections, you can see all the details are there, as there is nothing is uses, so no details are coming. In the CloudWatch sections, we'll attach a monitoring and we'll see all these things, okay. So leave it for now. Now let me get this public IP. Just give the public IP here and hit enter, okay. So as you know, every time whenever you connect, it will ask to the authenticity of your fingerprint. So you have to just give yes, I know this server, enter, okay. Warning, protected private key file. Guys, I just kept this error for you. Can anybody of you can tell me by reading this error, where is the problem? By reading this, can you troubleshoot? Because this is how you learn, right? Can you tell what is the error, why it is not able to connect? It's thrown some error. Can anybody tell?
Permissions of this file, PEM file. You need to give 777 permission to this PEM file.
Okay, anyone guys? Read the message carefully. Read the message carefully. So you came to the answer, but the answer is not correct.
Actually, the user only has the write option and read option. You cannot make your group public as read mode. I think the user should only has a read write access. You cannot open the file to everybody to read.
Exactly. So Siva got it. So because the bad permission, because the certificate, as I told you, certificate actually is very sensitive one. You should not give any read access to anybody except the user. Okay. So here, if I see the permission of this certificate, if I do the check the permission of this certificate, what it gives, read write to the user, read to the group and others also. So everyone having this read permission to the certificate. That's why they're saying it is are too open. It is are too open. That's why it is not allowing bad permissions. Okay. So unprotected private key file is not protected. So what we have to do now, I have to first change the permission of the key file. Okay. Chmod. Let me just give only read permission to me and 00. So if I check the permission now, it gives only read permission to the user. Okay. Now let's reconnect it. Let's see what's happening. See, now I can able to connect to the Amazon Linux to AMI. I can now connect to the Linux server. So this is my Linux server. You can see here the EC2 user and the now connected to the server, which one we created recently. So guys, one task for you today, you create one EC2 instances. I did not show you how to connect from your Windows server, right? I showed you from my Linux Mac Linux terminal. I connected it. But for a task for you guys, install one putty application, putty applications on your Windows machine. From there, I think everyone knows how to connect the EC2 server. I'm not sorry, how to connect the Linux server from putty. So you can go ahead and use it. This is a task. But while using the putty server, make sure, okay, that you are giving the certificates. Okay, if you are not sure about that, actually there is a uh, YouTube video I had created on my channel. It is, you can find it out. Okay, so that is how to connect the server using the putty from EC2 server using the putty. Okay, that you can just follow, and my channel name actually is given there. I think everyone can, anyone can get it. It's just search for Ranjit Swine and you'll find the channel details. Or I'll just ping you. Oh God, it's damn slow. Okay, so if I go for this, okay, there is a video which I had created to how to connect the file, and so oh, slow. C2 instance creation says let me C2 instances. Okay, key based authentication or snap. Okay, so EC2 Windows instance creation. No, it's working with EC2 Linux instances. Okay, this one I think, yeah, put the application. So what you guys can do, just I'm just quickly copying this and sharing the link with you. 1 second, sir. Okay, let me ping you quickly here in this section chat sections. You can follow this. Okay, you can follow this to connect from your putty. If you have any doubt, I think remember, if you are going for if you are using let me just ping you. If you are creating Amazon Linux, okay, Amazon Linux, uh, for that default username is EC2 hyphen user. Okay, if you are using Ubuntu server, if you are creating Ubuntu server, default username is Ubuntu. Okay, if you are creating CentOS, the default username is CentOS. If you are creating Windows, the default is administrator. Okay, administrator. So tomorrow's class will discuss more about the EC2. So we created now the EC2 instances. So next class we'll try to connect and install some applications and see how we can connect it. Also we'll create Windows instances. So this is a task for you guys. Just create one EC2 instance, try to connect from your Windows. If you have Mac or Linux machines, you can go ahead and connect it by the way I connected by using the SSH protocol, or if you have a Windows machines, you can just download, install putty and connect it, and you can follow that video if you have any doubt. Okay guys, it's almost 10 o'clock. I have another class to join, so any doubt or anything we need to discuss quickly, or we can discuss tomorrow's class. Okay, if you have any doubt, just do practice. If you have any doubt, we can discuss tomorrow's class. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Ranjit.
Okay. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
See you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.